The Flora Wonder blog, Winter Grafting. We have finished our winter grafting, and I'm always pleased when we can accomplish that task before the end of February. In years past, when we produced many thousands of grafts for custom liner sales, we would be pushed into the end of March, and the success rate would diminish with every day that we crept into the warmth of spring. In those days, we arose early, worked damn hard, but made only a bare profit by supplying other wholesale nurseries with choice and often new plants to grow on. In hindsight, I should have expected our liner customers to understand or appreciate the monumental effort that Buckles Nursery made on their behalf. By 2006, I had reduced the frenzy by a third to only include liners lining out stock that were most reliable for us. Good thing, because by 2009, very few were ordering any liners at all. Many of my good friends and loyal customers proved to be not so good and loyal after all. And shame on many of them for the unprofessional way in which they handled our relationship. But that is a good aspect to general hard economic times, that you find out just who is who. Not to brag, but our sales never declined for our specimen material. In fact, just the opposite. I have come to realize that our best customers are not defined by dollar sales, but rather by their happy, satisfied, and repeated business. I'm proud if I can be part of your success, and thanks to the many of you who behave properly. General Manager Phil Terrell and I have both concluded that we are best off to propagate a lot of plants, but all in a very modest to small numbers. There's no such thing as guaranteed sales for any plant anymore. In spite of previous experience, we can sell out one year and sell nary a one the next. And that's the new reality for the nursery industry. Our winter season's potpourri of grafting includes mostly conifers, but also a good many deciduous trees and shrubs. We did a lot of maples, a dozen species or so, some on our hot callus pipe and some not. As usual, we grafted a handful of Acer conspicuum, Phoenix, and I'll be thrilled if even half of them successfully copulate, as the Europeans put it. Other striped barks attempted include Acer davidii, Serendipity, Serpentine, and Silver Fox, as well as the illustrious Acer pectinatum Mozart, the bushy large shrub or small deciduous tree that features delectable dark red bark with silver stripes. We grafted a few more, beyond what we did this past summer, of Acer palmatum Summer Gold and Festival. Summer Gold has typical palmatum leaves, but of a golden color that do not burn in the full sun. You can't have too many of them, so far. We also propagated some more Acer palmatum Festival, our introduction with fantastic red, orange, and yellow autumn color. And again, we attempted a number of Acer palmatum Fairy here, for traditionally, we do quite well with winter grafts of that cultivar. We typically graft Carpinus betulus or European hornbeam in the winter. We did a few of the cultivar Monument, and the remainder with the old Columnaris nana, and I do not yet know how the two differ. What I do know is that we would previously sell out of these plants, even though I personally find them to be kind of boring. These dwarf columnars are best in the spring, when they feature lime green new growth. But they have nothing to say for themselves in autumn with disappointing yellow-brown leaves. But in winter, you can observe their muscular, erect branches, and they all seem to be raising their arms in praise. As usual, we produce a number of witch hazel grafts in the winter, always using Hemimelis virginiana as rootstock. Two yellowing flowering cultivars, Angeli and Sunburst, have effectively surpassed the old Arnold's Promise, Primavera, and Boscoop Glory. The former two usually bloom at different times, which is why I like them both, but also because their yellow flower straps are so bright and clear. We also cranked out a number of orange peel, our only orange to be propagated this year. Add to these some Brigitte for our red-flowered selection, and the Blue Moon for a, well, blue-purple flower experience. For some reason, I'm highly excited about the new cultivar, Hamamelis, Strawberries and Cream. Just as I was 30 years ago with the new maple cultivar, Acer palmatum, Peaches and Cream. I can't fully explain what happens with the witch hazel, but the combination of dull yellow petals with reddish centers is most likable, indeed worthy of cultivar status. I planted one at the top of the long entrance road to my home, and I relish it this week with the afternoon backlight from its west. The generic name, Hamamelis, combines two Greek words meaning fruit, as in apple or medlar, and together, which describes the hamamelis habit of producing flowers at the same time that the previous year's fruits mature and disperse seed. Southeastern Native Americans favored the nutty seed, but caution was necessary as the oily seed capsules could explode when heated. Hamamelis was a widely used medicinal plant for them, curing everything from an aching back to mosquito bites to hemorrhoids. Best of all, for you aging beauties out there, witch hazel extracts have shown some potential in anti-aging or anti-wrinkling applications. I'll love you equally anyway, though, wrinkles or not. Cornus alternifolia is a native eastern USA large bush or small tree with, yes, alternating leaves. I've never seen the straight species for sale, even though autumn foliage can be a wonderful pastel of soft colors. Most commonly we encounter the variegated form, Cornus alternifolia argentea. The selection is not strong on its own roots, propagated by rooting cuttings in summer under mist, so we prefer to graft into some alternifolia rootstock. They can grow awkward and spreading when young, and pruning rather than staking seems to produce the most attractive forms. Any green branches should be removed, or that portion will eventually dominate. All in all, argentea is a classy deciduous tree, one that fetches a good price. I have read before that the high price is due to difficulty in propagation, alleged in one of those shallow gardening magazines, but that's amusing news to me. Buckle's Nursery has introduced two other variegated Cornus alternifolia, Saya and Moonlight. Saya is one of the most exciting of any variegated plant, but unfortunately it's prone to reversion. It could become one of my dead-end selections that I often seem to find, after wasting a lot of time and money, and sadly, I named a possible dud after my youngest daughter. Spoken, Saya, in Japanese can mean any number of things, but my daughter's character indicated a field of flowers. Cornus alternifolia Moonlight occurred as a branch mutation on a green rootstock, and it is quite stable. Throughout spring and summer, it resembles argentea, but in autumn, the Moonlight tends to display more reddish-purple foliage. My start of Odd Leaf came from Cape Brook Nurseries in Vermont, and I assume that it originated as a seedling. No one thinks of it as beautiful, but it's just odd enough that customers are attracted to it. We also grafted the choice variegata cultivar of Cornus controversa. The species and the cultivar are known for sweeping horizontal branching, and I can think of nothing better for a lawn tree. The full tree photo above was taken at Arboretum Trompenberg in Rotterdam on a gloomy, rainy day. But nevertheless, it displayed great luster and was the star of the garden. Every one of my 5 visits to Trompenberg was wet and gloomy, but it is still my favorite garden in Europe. We graft oaks on our hot callus pipes and achieve far better success than on the traditional greenhouse benches. The heat is kept at a steady 70 degrees Fahrenheit for a period of 3 weeks, and if the grafts stay on the direct heat for longer, there is a possibility of over-callusing. This method of cheating nature is what a lot of propagation is all about. For the goal is to speed things up and to make a quicker profit. If I was wealthy, I would grow plants, but not bother to sell them, and I would leave the natural process alone. Oaks propagated this year include Quercus robur, English oak, Concordia, and Butterbee, both garden cultivars. Both stay quite yellow all season in Oregon, and do not burn when established and given adequate moisture. On the East Coast, the golden oaks are said to emerge yellow, but then mature to green. Too bad, and I assume that is due to the higher summer humidity, which thankfully we don't experience. We also grafted Quercus robur purpurea, which features purple-red foliage. None of these three cultivars display much for autumn color, unless you consider dead brown a color. Quercus is the Latin name for oak, while robur is Latin for strength, or hard timber. English oak, like Oregon's native Quercus garryana, are both in the white oak section of the genus, and are fortunately immune to the sudden oak death disease, Flora ramorium. Liquid ambar, Flora, is commonly known as sweet gum, and in fact both its genus name and species name refer to its sweet sap. Its maple-like leaves have 5 to 7 pointed lobes and can turn into fantastic colors in fall. Unfortunately, the species can attain huge size, and it is especially susceptible to ice storm damage. That problem can be solved by growing in a newly selected columnar form named slender silhouette, and it will turn into an orange-red-purple pillar in fall. This clone was a discovery by Tennessee nurseryman Don Shadow, because it is easy to propagate, has been passed around quickly. And I'm cautious not to grow too many, no matter how great it is. We also grafted a few liquid ambar Flora Silver King, a vigorous cultivar with white and green leaves that do not burn in Oregon's brutal dry heat summer. Liquid ambar Acalycina is difficult to pronounce, so just call it the Chinese sweet gum. Tri-lobe leaves emerge reddish purple, then green somewhat in summer. Autumn color is fantastic purple. When young, Acalycina has a narrow pyramidal form, but it will broaden at maturity. The spiky gumballs have been used for centuries in Chinese medicine. They are named Lulu Long, or all roads open. It promotes the movement of blood, water metabolism, and urination, nasal congestion, and if needed, it's helpful to expel wind. There's also possible value in sweet gum fruit for treating flu due to significant amounts of shikimic acid. The shikimic name comes from the Japanese flower, shikimi, the Japanese star anise, Elysium antisatum. The species Acalyciana is pronounced Acalecinu and means without a calyx. A calyx is a Latin word from Greek kalux, meaning husk or pod, and is related to Greek kaliputin, to hide. Some suggest that calyx is connected with Greek kalix, for drinking cup. I should point out that these husks or pods have nothing to do with spiky gumballs, but rather the liquid ambar's greenish flowers. Anyway, that's quite a lot of verbal wandering, especially from one who is not exactly Mr. Botany. Speaking of wandering, I began the blog by saying that most of our grafting this winter was conifers, and I have failed to mention any, but maybe I'll get to that next week. If you are a specialty nursery or boutique garden center wanting the rare and exceptional plants your customers love, register as a wholesale customer on buckoltznursery.com today.